Veterans that we represent often experience post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injuries, substance abuse problems, and mental health issues, where I get really frustrated when I see a person who needs help and I see a lawyer who's not delivering the help I believe that client is entitled to. I think what we need to do as lawyers, what our courts can do, is to help by building trust, by connecting clients to veteran mentors.
Welcome to Counselor, Beyond Conventional Defense.
Hello and welcome to Counselor, Beyond Conventional Defense, the podcast that challenges the traditional approach to criminal defense and takes a deeper look at how the justice system can evolve with attorney William Pernik, a trailblazer in criminal defense whose approach is anything but conventional. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and of course, I am joined by William Pernik. William, welcome back.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure.
So today we're going to talk about working with veterans and military clients. So what made you want to do an episode about this? What unique challenges do military veterans and service members face when they become involved in the criminal justice system?
Veterans that we represent often experience post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injuries, substance abuse problems, and mental health issues, all stemming from their service. Many of our clients who are veterans or currently in the military, perhaps returning home from deployments, serving overseas, reuniting with families, they go through a hard time and they struggle with reintegration. That's actually a common thing for veterans and military families. Many of our clients experience significant amounts of trauma in the service, either because something happened to them or maybe something happened to a friend of theirs. Somebody committed suicide, somebody died in combat, and people are exposed to trauma. They're exposed to it for a long period of time. Not everybody can handle it. Some of our clients are also victims of military sexual trauma. That can happen to male or female clients. And these factors can directly contribute to legal troubles that a person can find themselves in. And they often require a specialized approach, trauma-informed approach that is rooted in understanding of both military clients themselves and their psychology, as well as underlying problems of mental health, substance use, or some of the issues we have just discussed. And so for me, it's incredibly meaningful and rewarding to work with a population of clients like our military clients. We're very proud here in Monterey County to once have been a home to a large military installation, Fort Ord. There is a proud military tradition that remains in Monterey County. We're home to several military installations, Naval Postgraduate School, Defense Language Institute, Army's Human Resources component is still here. And so as a result, we have a lot of young people who serve in these posts, and from time to time they get in trouble. Sometimes it could be an older person. It could be a person who has returned from combat, somebody who is now serving as part of the reserves or National Guard. And so when they get in trouble, we are very proud to be the lawyers who help them.
Can you explain what Section 1001.80 military diversion is and how it works for misdemeanor and felony cases?
Yeah, so Section 1001.80 is a statute in California, meaning it's a law. And what it does is that it allows eligible veterans and active duty service members charged with misdemeanors or felonies to enter a treatment-based alternative to criminal prosecution, as opposed to go through traditional criminal process. It's incredibly advantageous for a person because if you are able to get into an alternative to conventional prosecution, if you can get your case successfully diverted, then it results in no finding of guilt, no finding of liability, no criminal conviction, and therefore it can help you protect your reputation, protect your service record, help you remain eligible for certain benefits, such as retirement that you may have been working towards for 16 out of 20 years before something happened at home. And it also can help people avoid a criminal conviction that could affect them in other areas of their life. For example, for employment, for security clearance, for housing purposes, and the like. This is a complicated statute. It has recently been revised to include felonies. Previously, it was only eligible and only apply to misdemeanor clients. But the statute now combines basically a prior version, which allowed any military client or any veteran of United States Armed Forces charged with a misdemeanor offense to petition the court for diversion if they were able to demonstrate a connection or nexus between their service in the military and one of several enumerated conditions: post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, or any mental health or substance abuse issue, to name a few. Also, TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, are listed specifically in the statute. And we have an incredible treatment facility for veterans who deal with TBIs not very far from us in Santa Clara County. And so anybody charged with a misdemeanor who happens to be a veteran of the United States Armed Services or currently in the service can petition for diversion. And if accepted, their criminal case would get suspended. They would be placed in a period of supervision and treatment in a specialized treatment court specifically for military clients and veterans. And if they complete it, the case gets dismissed, arrest record is sealed. They never have to say guilty. They never have to say the words no contest. They never have to enter a plea of any kind. There's no admission of guilt. There's no finding of guilt. There's no criminal conviction, and it protects these folks tremendously. So this statute has recently been updated, and as of January 1st of this year, 2025, it applies to felonies. But in felony version of that statute, they essentially combined it with statute we discussed earlier on the show, mental health diversion statute. And so the new version is quite complicated. It reflects a compromise where misdemeanor charges make it very easy to obtain diversion on. All you have to demonstrate is a permissive link or very minimal connection that your prior service in the military or current service in the military may have caused you to develop any of the conditions I've mentioned: PTSD, TBI, MST, mental health diagnosis, or substance abuse problem. Whereas on a felony charge, you have to demonstrate the same criteria that you would for a regular mental health diversion. So you have to show that you suffer from a mental health disorder, that this disorder played a significant role in your commission of a crime, that the symptoms of this disorder can be treated, that you're willing to participate in treatment, that you are willing to provide the court with records and proof that you're participating in this treatment, and that your continued treatment in the community on an outpatient basis will not pose unreasonable risk to public safety. The difference between obtaining treatment from military court or veterans treatment court and going through the mental health diversion statute is where you will be receiving treatment. Veteran courts are highly specialized, and so they have a team of social workers, they have a team of doctors, they can provide a lot of resources right there on site, they can do referrals. And so you will be doing treatment in a court that's specialized for veterans, for military clients, often with community volunteers who are prior service as well. Sometimes these courts are staffed with prosecutors or attorneys who are prior service, judges who understand issues that veterans face. And so it's a much better experience for the client that leads to far better legal and personal outcomes, as opposed to being treated as an ordinary defendant in your average criminal court.
Are there other benefits of military diversion for clients that's different from the standard diversion programs?
Yeah, so military diversion is tailored to the unique needs of veterans and service members. One of the things that happens when a person is admitted into military diversion, as opposed to going through the regular process, is that they're connected with VA resources, mental health treatment, and peer support. There are wonderful participants in this program. You have social workers, you have psychiatrists, you have community volunteers. And so veteran clients can receive a ton of support that is very different from you having to come up with your own treatment plan, obtain your own treatment privately. Here, all of the resources are provided for you in a very specialized way and tailored to your unique needs as an individual. And I can give you some specific examples that include providing people with assistance that's housing focused, employment focused, substance abuse treatment focused, mental health treatment focused, really a complete wraparound approach. And it leads to really terrific outcomes for this population of clients who could really benefit from it and truly deserves it by virtue of their honor and sacrifice for the country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Why do you think some veterans resist treatment? Can you, as a defense attorney, can the courts sort of help overcome the resistance?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And I think that the qualities that make us admire this particular population of military clients and veterans generally are the same qualities of self-reliance For example, of inner strength, of not showing weakness in the face of challenge or danger. These are the qualities that are nurtured when somebody is obviously serving in combat or perhaps in a non-combat role as a member of U.S. Armed Forces. Our soldiers are trained to be tough, they're trained to endure, and they're trained to rely on themselves. They're also trained to look out for everybody else. So oftentimes I will have a veteran client who will say, well, Mr. Pernik, it's not so bad for me. I can handle it on my own. We don't have a lot of resources here at the VA. Other guys I serve with need it more than I do. They deserve treatment more than I do. But that's really not how this bureaucracy works. It's really not how resource allocation works. And I think there is some stigma still around mental health. There are some concerns about privacy or career impact. And that leads to some veterans not reporting issues that they're having, or some people who are still serving in the military, perhaps in sensitive positions. I've had a number of clients with top secret security clearances. I've had some high ranking officers. And obviously, folks like that are really concerned that if they disclose an alcohol abuse problem, for example, a depression problem, an anxiety problem, things that happen to them after their third or fourth consecutive deployment, that this could hinder their career. This could lead to them being perceived differently. And I think what we need to do as lawyers, what our courts can do is to help by building trust, by connecting clients to veteran mentors, and we have a lot of them in treatment courts, and by emphasizing that treatment is a sign of strength, not weakness, and that's a path to recovery. And what I really like telling my veteran clients, because I really believe it, is to tap into this personality trait that I think is very common to this group, and that is one of helping others. And so what I like to tell a client is, look, Kevin, I know that this is something that you have struggled with for some time. By participating in this program, you actually will have an opportunity not only to improve yourself, but also because I can tell that you possess these unique leadership skills, you're going to become a role model for other people, for other soldiers who are entering this program. You're going to be able to make connections with other people. You're going to be able to become their mentor down the road. And so it kind of taps into this buddy system mentality that is, I think, ingrained in a lot of our young men and women. And so I think by making it not only about themselves, but also the greater good, sometimes I personally am able to encourage people to participate in treatment that I know they need for themselves. And I also do think that once they graduate from the program, they could end up becoming messengers of hope for others. And I can give you one specific example. I had a gentleman who I represented a number of years ago who entered Veterans Treatment Court on several felony charges. And that's exactly what happened to him. He went through the program. He got his criminal case dismissed. He addressed the underlying issues that caused him to fall from grace, so to speak. And then he became a volunteer inside our local court, the same court he graduated from. And it made me so happy. Every time I would see him, it would give me the biggest smile, the firmest handshake. And I know that I played a small role in this person, now playing a big role for a lot of other people. So it's a very rewarding experience, not only for the individual, but also for the legal professional who can see that your work helped another human, and now that person is paying it forward for others. And I think by handling it in that way, we can get more people the help that they need and feel much better about ourselves and help our community and our society.
That's really cool. What is the Veterans Treatment Court, and how does it support veterans differently than a traditional court?
So Veterans Treatment Courts are specialized courts, and we have them in almost every jurisdiction. Sometimes you will have a smaller county that may not have its own veterans court. So that county will be serviced by a specifically designated person from the VA who will work with the veteran, will provide specialized treatment that addresses their needs, will provide reports to the court, and provide the same kind of service on the individualized basis as larger counties will have in a group and formalized setting. But for the most part, certainly in bigger counties like Santa Clara County, which has one of the best veteran courts in the nation, one of the first ones, a role model and a standard really for how veteran care should be done in the judicial system. Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, all of these local counties where we work, they have veterans courts of their own. But these are specialized courtrooms that are staffed by specially trained social workers from the VA, psychiatrists from the VA. They will typically have prosecutors with military background. Certainly prosecutors who have military background often will volunteer to work in that assignment, in addition to maybe some other duties. Some counties will do it on a rotation basis. Other counties will have a person who's just assigned there. And so these are places that have far greater understanding of the needs and challenges faced by military clients as a population. They will have probation officers who receive specialized training. So they're not going to treat the veteran client as an average person, as a criminal who needs to be treated with iron fist, who needs to be searched and drug tested and things like that. Even when these things do happen, they will be treated differently. And I think it makes a much different experience for the client. And I think that's very important. And so these are collaborative courts. They're not designed to be adversarial. The only adversarial proceeding that we sometimes participate in connection with these courts is by arguing that somebody should get in. So you could have an argument about whether or not someone is eligible, whether or not someone is suitable. Sometimes when charges are really serious, you will have prosecutors objecting to their admission to courts, like veterans treatment courts. But once a person is in, it's a completely collaborative approach where everybody is rooting for that individual to succeed in treatment. And at the end, when a person completes treatment program, they get a standing round of applause. They usually will get some certificate or a challenge coin or something like that. That's a local tradition here in Monterey County, for example. They receive intensive supervision, treatment, and peer support with the underlying goals of addressing underlying problems like homelessness, addiction, substance use, mental illness, and definitely reducing recidivism. In fact, the legislation that supported creation of these courts was based on research that showed that when veterans receive treatment in a community of other veterans, the recidivism rates are virtually non-existent. Mm-hmm. So it works. It works really, really well, and we need to promote it. And so I'm really disheartened when I'm sometimes in court and I see an attorney pleading out a veteran client with zero consideration for an alternative like military diversion, veterans court, or even the sentencing statute, section 1170.9, which also provides for an opportunity to get resources for people. I think you're beginning to see a pattern from our dozen conversations or so, Kevin, where I get really frustrated when I see a person who needs help and I see a lawyer who's not delivering the help that I believe that client is entitled to. That's very frustrating to me. And that's why I want to educate people that these things are out there, that resources are out there. Do your job, advocate, help, heal.
1170.9, you briefly mentioned that. Can you give a little more detail on that?
Yeah, so section 1170.9 is yet another alternative mechanism to get help to a veteran client. Sometimes a person may not be admitted to veterans court or military diversion court. Perhaps they do not completely satisfy the admission criteria. Perhaps there is something that disqualifies them, or maybe they violated the terms of diversion that they were previously admitted in. And so this is a sentencing statute that basically gives legislative preference for treatment through the VA in lieu of incarceration, meaning instead of incarceration. So this section of the Penal Code, section 1170.9, basically allows judges to consider a person's military service and their service-related trauma or mental health condition or substance abuse condition a significant sentencing factor, and it allows the court to place the person into a treatment program with significant preference for VA-run and administered treatment programs, and that could save a person from going to jail, from losing their job, losing their home, and it allows attorneys to get the treatment that their clients need. Basically, this is a code section, it's a law that recognizes that rehabilitation is much more appropriate and effective for veterans than traditional punishment and incarceration.
And then what kind of examples have you seen of extraordinary recovery among your military clients after they enter these programs? You mentioned one, obviously.
Yeah, I can think of dozens of extraordinary stories, and no one person who has served their country is any more deserving of great legal outcome and a dismissal than anybody else. But I can tell you that out of the hundreds of clients that we help, we observe that many veterans who initially struggled with addiction or mental health issues have truly turned their lives around because of these programs and through these programs. With the right support, we have veteran clients and military clients who can regain stability, who oftentimes can reconnect with their families. And they can become really positive contributors to their communities, leaders, in fact. We have clients who reconnect with their loved ones after being gone for a long period of time. I can't help but think about one client in particular, and I'm going to refer to him by name Jeff. That's not his real name, but I'm going to call him Jeff to protect his privacy. And when his mom called me, Jeff was homeless. He was wandering the streets collecting cans and muttering and yelling at passerbys. Okay. He was a person who, if you didn't know that he was a Marine, if you just saw him on the street, he looked like a crazy homeless guy yelling obscenities. And that's exactly what happened in his case. Jeff was yelling obscenities at a neighbor after getting into a verbal confrontation with him over some trash cans that he was trying to recycle. There were allegations of criminal threats. There were allegations of a weapon being used. And so my client, who by then had developed a little bit of a criminal record, he had previously attempted to represent himself. Always a bad idea. He had a public defender represent him in other cases, resulted in quick pleas and convictions, never really any substantive treatment, even though the statute has been available, at least during a number of those prior cases that I have reviewed. And so Jeff ends up in jail. Mom calls me. Family basically lost hope. Family feels bad that he's facing felony charges. They don't really know what else can be done. We work the case up. We obtain his military records. We get an understanding of what his mental health scenario is. Why is he paranoid? Why is he delusional? Why is he homeless? We present all of that, and Jeff gets an opportunity to either, his choice, get a misdemeanor, case closed. He gets to walk out of jail and go home, or he can participate in this program that I've really talked up and discussed with him at length, and I've presented to him during our many meetings in jail as a life-changing opportunity. And so Jeff does something completely remarkable that's really courageous and really speaks to the kind of person he is. He chooses the harder option. He chooses to not get a quick and dirty misdemeanor like a number of others that he had. He chooses to stay in, to put in the work and do the program. And miraculous things happen to him as a result. He has so much help and support from an incredible social worker through the VA that we have here locally. He gets placed into a residential program for veterans who struggle with homelessness. He ends up getting help for his substance use issues, for mental health issues. He enrolls in a class to become a professional driver. So he ends up becoming a commercial driver. And when he graduates the program, the prosecutor himself, who was a veteran, came up and shook his hand and said, that's exactly what this court is about. And it was very hard for me to not feel emotion when I remembered the homeless guy that I met in jail who was muttering things and yelling at people collecting cans. And at the end of this journey, we had a productive member of society, a citizen, a taxpayer, a person with a professional license who now had an occupation, who was in a loving embrace of his family and loved ones. Have we not fixed the problem by doing that? Isn't that what we're supposed to do? We obtained a dismissal of the case. We didn't have to suffer the indignity of a conviction. And we had an honorable man, a Marine Corps veteran, who had a second chance at life. And to me, this is what these programs do, and this is what they're about.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, what advice would you give to other defense attorneys working with military clients or to veterans themselves who find themselves in legal trouble?
That's a really great question. For the attorneys, I would say, first and foremost, you need to educate yourself on military culture. Working with this particular population of clients is not like dealing with most people who come to your door asking for help in a criminal case. These are proud people. These are folks who are, as I said earlier, trained to be tough, to be self-reliant. And so you have to do some work trying to explain to them and convincing them to actually ask for help. Okay? They need to know that help is not something that they have to beg for. It's something that they have earned. They're entitled to it by virtue of their service. We need to explain the reason behind these laws and the things that they can do to help our individual clients. And so attorneys have a duty to educate themselves, I think, on military culture, on available resources, and they always have to screen for service-related trauma, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and the like. When I do intake on any criminal case in my firm, and I have trained my staff to do the exact same thing, that's actually part of our standard intake when we screen for any kind of mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and we specifically check if a person has ever served in the military, because sometimes a person may have served 30 years ago, they may not have been deployed in combat, and they may not share that information with you, but that could nonetheless open some unique opportunities for the individual to get help. For the veterans, related to what I have suggested for lawyers, I think it's very important to not be afraid to seek help. There are programs designed specifically for you. This is not a handout. This is something that you have earned by serving our country. When you enlist to serve in the United States Armed Forces, you agree that you're going to put your life on the line. And so our laws reflect our consideration of the unique sacrifice and honor that our veteran clients make, and it reflects a benefit that this population of clients is entitled to. It's not a handout. This is an earned benefit as a result of dedicated military service. And so please don't be afraid to ask for help. Help is there, but be careful. Make sure you select an attorney who understands how to work with military clients, who understands what can happen to a military client in the event of conviction, and who can help you avoid the worst consequences of a conviction. But your service is recognized. It is respected in the justice system, and if properly brought before the court, it will make a difference. And sometimes it can make all the difference. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to Counselor Beyond Conventional Defense with attorney William Pernik. To connect with William and his team, head to perniklaw.com, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We love having you here. William, thanks so much for the conversation. Really insightful stuff.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.